Okay, I just had a dream, and I'm not entirely sure that this could be from the Holy Spirit, but I'm gonna go with maybe 75% sure, maybe 50%. I'm a little unsure that this is from the Holy Spirit. Um, the Reformed theology side of me, which there is a Reformed theology side of me, says no way would this dream ever pass muster. Um, But the Catholic side of me, the part that respects the Catholic saints and the way they live their lives, not the part of me that prays to them, because I don't, just the part of me that respects that prayer life that they developed and the supernatural dimension, kind of kind of says, yeah, this is probably from the Holy Spirit. And so I'm gonna I'm gonna just preface that with kind of like trying to be cautious, trying to be like, yeah, I don't know. But um, before I get into this, um, I'm not going to go around calling it a prophetic word because I don't think it's necessarily directed at anybody other than somebody who's spiritually hungry. Um, and I just completely laid into C.S. Lewis in a previous podcast um, because I think C.S. Lewis was a universalist and a false teacher. And I can say the trilemma of Lord Liar Lunatic was useful in More Than a Carpenter, but I can't go for it and just say, oh yeah, C.S. Lewis, he's a great guy. I think we should just read nothing but C.S. Lewis all day. I could never do that. I could never do that. Like his writings are just littered with universalism and syncretism, so I can't do it. Um, with that being said, I think that word pictures and allegories are extremely useful in illustrating spiritual concepts, not only for teaching purposes to kids, but also messages from the spirit realm to our minds can pick up spiritual concepts easier through dreams and through visions and through, when we're in prayer, through word images. Um, Jesus, a lot of what he taught was just word images to people. Um, it's why he said that he opened his mouth in parables and uttered things that were secret from the foundation of the world. Um, so there's there's something really spiritually powerful about nonlinear uh, vocabulary word type communication, where you're just receiving pictures as the means of communication, um, because there's something almost more real about it than just sitting here listening to me talk about a podcast. I mean, if I was to just give you pictures here instead of listening to me talk, it might be harder to understand what I'm trying to communicate, but it would at the same time feel more real. Um, but so nonverbal communication or image-based communication um, is powerful in the sense that it can come more real to the mind than just listening to verbal communication. Um, and I think that when we look at the Bible, when we look at the prophets, when we look at the prophets of the Bible receiving communications from the Holy Spirit, I would have to say most of it is the image-based communication of dreams, and then them taking that and waking up from it and then putting it into poetry, putting the dream into poetry. I personally believe a lot of what we have in the Old Testament prophets are prophetic dream poetry. Prophetic dream poetry. Prophetic dreams turned into bard-like poems. And that's why we have so much of those word imagery poems in, say, Isaiah, for example. Take Isaiah 53, for example. He was crushed for our iniquities. Just that one verse has a word picture in it. And then, of course, the whole chapter is a poem. It's got poetic rhythm to it. So you're taking word pictures out of dreams and expressing it into poetry rather than just telling a dream out from start to finish like Daniel did. No, you're turning it into poetry so that it's easier to remember and to recite for future generations. So anyway, I believe in real religious allegory. Religious allegory is where you take this word pictures, this word imagery that comes out of the realm of dreams, and you use that as a means of communicating realities that exist inside the spirit world. And it's called religious allegory. John Bunyan did it in Pilgrim's Progress and the Holy War, and I think he wrote some other allegories as well. Jesus did it in the parables. The Old Testament prophets did it through sharing their dreams, probably through poems. John Milton did it in Paradise Lost, and so forth. And even though I completely attacked and shot down Chronicles of Narnia, and I still do, and I stick to it because the word imagery points to universalism, I'm not against using word pictures and religious allegory as a means of communicating spiritual realities. I have not seen Tron Ares, which is a new movie that's coming out in about 7 days. I'm impressed by the special effects of it, but I have not seen it. But I have seen Tron, and I have seen Tron Legacy, and I was always impressed by those movies. Now, the character Kevin Flynn in Tron Legacy has sort of a Zen Buddhist sort of a spirituality. They don't really go into it too much, but there's scenes where you see him being alone and meditating and stuff. But it's not necessarily Buddhism that's being communicated or Hinduism that's being communicated. But you kind of get that feeling that he's doing Zen Buddhism there. Now, a lot of people in Catholicism see no conflict between Zen Buddhism and Catholicism. I do. I think that contemplating or doing still contemplative meditation under the concept of Buddhism will lead you to Buddhist revelations, and that's demonic. So I can't approve of that. But what I can do is I can go to a guy like that and say, look, there's a better way to be a contemplative, and that is through Christ. And I just had a dream where I saw Kevin Flynn, the character in the Tron series, who in this movie will be an old dad with a beard, living inside of the Tron of the Tron program, living a contemplative life. And I came in this dream, I came into the grid, which is the software program that he's been living in his whole life. And I came into it and I tried to communicate the classic Christian contemplative life to him. I tried to communicate the Richard Foster message of you don't have to be a Buddhist to experience enlightenment. You don't have to be a Buddhist. This is not the right way. You're almost there, but it's not the right way. Let me show you the Christian way to contemplate, to have a prayer life, to seek God. So that's what I was doing in this dream. I think it was from the Holy Spirit. And the dream image went something like this. I was outdoors in a meadow, and there was sunlight coming down on the meadow, on the forest, and it was peaceful. There was a tiny little creek over there on the side, and the water would kind of bleed out into the grass a little bit. and I saw Kevin Flynn in his robe garment, and he was, doing whatever type of Buddhist meditation he had come up with. And I went over to him to try to say that there was a better way, the way that's communicated in Streams of Living Water by Richard J. Foster, and Prayer, Finding the Heart's True Home by Richard J. Foster. And so I tried to communicate that stuff to him. The contemplative prayer stuff that comes from Christianity, especially from the Catholic monastic tradition. I tried to communicate that be still and know that God is God concept to him. And as I did this, I believe it was the Holy Spirit that filled me. And I said, I have not been faithful. I have done this before. I have touched the powers of God by doing this for about a year or so before in my life. But then I said to him, and I saw that his face, but he was compassionate and everything as he was listening to me. And I said, and I was crying so deep from within my gut as I communicated this to him. And I said, but I have not been faithful to live the contemplative life that I've known. And I could have experienced God deeper and more often if I would have just been more disciplined. I said something like that. And because I could see that he was really, really disciplined about his Buddhist meditation practices, and I had found a better way. I had found a way that led me directly into contact with God, the God of the Bible, but I had not been as disciplined and as faithful to develop that contemplative prayer life as this guy had in his Buddhist meditations. And so I was sad when I had made this admission to him, and I broke down and cried on the grass, and I woke up out of my dream. So that was my experience. I'm under the impression this Tron Ares movie is going to be pretty awesome. That doesn't mean that this dream is a 100% endorsement of this Tron Ares or of the Tron series. There's some things about these movies that can kind of rub you the wrong way. Maybe some the way people are dressed or whatever. Maybe you're just not into that sort of thing. But um, the dream itself seemed to rebuke Zen Buddhism and lift up the Christian contemplative life as better, because it's like my thoughts and feelings were such that I knew that this was the truth, but I was challenged by how much less discipline I had about it compared with this guy over here, and he was following a false religion. And but he was understanding and everything, what I was trying to communicate to him in the dream. But I believe that I woke up with that deep crying sort of thing. As I woke up, it had to be the Holy Spirit. I mean, why would an evil spirit make you want to think about stuff like that? It was a challenge to seek God deeper, the God of the Bible, through prayer, through still quiet prayer life, to have more experience of the Holy Spirit. I can't argue with that. I can't argue with the fact that this Christian contemplative life is superior to the Buddhist contemplative life. And I can't argue with the fact that I would cry when I saw my own personal failures in religious discipline. Now, I do not believe we earn our salvation through contemplative discipline. I do not. I believe that it increases our sanctification in the sense of James 4:8, that we can draw nearer to God through it. So I almost every time I talk about good works or sanctification, I almost have to qualify it. This is not about earning your salvation from hell. This is not about earning or logging in hours with God to gain more points than other Christians. so that you can earn the right to deserve to be saved from hell. It's not about that, so I don't know why I have to say that, but I know I have to say that because the moment you start talking about stuff like this, you have to say that because people automatically think that you're talking about deserving to go to heaven. It's not. This is about loving God deeper than you normally do. That's all this is about. And I think one of the reasons why I've been so lacking in discipline in this area is because I'm secure. I have assurance of my salvation through my faith in the cross. I know I don't need to do that stuff to be saved from hell. And so it's always optional. It's always just presented to me as something that is optional. It's an invitation. If you want to come deeper, here it is.